video games are for nerds. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about them. That's why you're listening to The Week in Gaming, the only gaming podcast that breaks down the last 7 days and tears games apart from the inside. Ugh. So forget your worries, open your ears, and join Simon Miller and a co-host for the entertainment chatter you need. Also, screw Dark Souls.
Hello and welcome to The Week in Gaming. My name is Simon Miller and this is a podcast about video games. Now, we didn't go up last week because this kind of all ties in. It's a nice little story to start this week's episode of the podcast. We didn't go up last week because I was actually wrestling for Defiant Wrestling, which is a UK wrestling promotion, if you don't know, that airs live on Fight TV and the Access Defiant apps. You can go watch all that stuff if you want. That is a cheap plug in case you're interested. And I'm going to be telling this story a lot over the next few weeks, but hey, I got a lot of endeavours, and I don't want to assume that everybody knows. And basically, it was a 2-night event, and on the second night, basically what happened is somebody hit me very hard with a lariat, which is like a clothesline or arm across the chest, shoulders, if you don't know, and they hit me so hard they broke my collarbone. No, if you can imagine, if you do break a collarbone, it's really hard to do anything, as you basically don't have an arm. Luckily, it means that we can podcast here today, but it means everything else is going to be a little up in the air, including me doing any kind of research for the show, because I was trying to sort out a surgery appointment for the end of the week because I may need surgery on it. Anyway, that's just a quick update in case you're interested in what's going on, or you're a frequent visitor to the youtube.com/The Minute Report Rules site. That's why I'm going to do my best, to do what I can, but I'm kind of working at 50% at the moment. But either way, we carry on as normal as best we can. That's why it is Monday. We're doing the Week in Gaming. And of course, as always, my friend Sam is joining me to chat about video games. Sam, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing good. The heat has returned. There was a few days that I was like, okay, cool, we're back to Britain. And then it's like, here's some 31 degrees weather. And
it's crazy as well, because I was up in Newcastle and it was raining. So, to come back down here and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, it's hotter than ever, especially when my arm's in a sling all the time. If you don't know about modern-day slings, they're all like foam and shit. It's really hot. It's really warm to wear a damn sling. But I know everyone says don't moan about the weather, but as I always say, well, I like the cold. So I'm that guy when it's snowing, and I'm not snow, but I'm having a draft. How's your collarbone? Is yours all right?
Yeah, I mean, mine's fine. Yeah, I haven't taken any blunt trauma to it. It's all good.
There we go. You see, I like to always bring out the positive in all situations. Now, Sam and I did have a conversation sort of late last week as I was struggling through my injuries, and it was a story that was doing the rounds, but I'd missed it again because I was in hospital, basically. It's about No Man's Sky developer Sean Murray. Sam, I'll pass it over to you in a second to talk about it more because I know you've read about it more. But what I can gather is he basically came out, talked about the highs, the lows, the expectation, maybe not meeting those expectations, and specifically about all the death threats that they had received. And this has been going on for years, to the point I did a video about this years ago on videogamer.com where I talked about how crazy all that was. And to this day, I stand by all my thoughts. But I thought, as ever, in the middle of summer, as Sam just said, the temperature's through the roof. Not a lot is going on in video games, at least for a while. So as we chatted about, we just wanted to pick a subject to talk about to kick off each podcast and go from there. And I believe this is the one we're going to go with. But Sam, you give me anything else you want to get into, and we can just have a back and forth about it.
Yeah, I mean, The Guardian did a really good interview with Sean Murray because, as probably people are already aware, the disastrous launch of No Man's Sky pretty much meant that Murray and his team sort of went into media exclusion, which was very different to what they were doing before No Man's Sky. So they sort of kept their heads down and started working on the game. There's been, 4 major updates and a ton of smaller ones. The next update is coming, which is called The Next Update. Is coming soon, which will bring full multiplayer in. But yeah, this is the first proper big interview that Sean Murray's done since the disastrous launch, and it's really nice because it's not that long an article, but I only really skimmed through it for the interesting parts. But it's interesting to hear from his perspective. Obviously, he was never going to be like, "Oh, I love those death threats," but it's interesting because he gave a little bit of an aside saying like there wasn't. Oh, this is the worst. It's so aggravating because apparently he said there'd be butterflies in the game, and there weren't butterflies.
I remember this. Yes, I remember.
And some guy apparently was sending him death threats about butterflies being in a video game, which just makes me weep for humanity, really. But yeah, it's an interesting interview because at the end he says, "Oh, we still launched the game we wanted to launch," and I'm like, "Did you?" like, it's 2 years after the fact. You have no face to save now. Like, the damage is done. You don't have, if you didn't launch it, like, you're fine to say that, you know, he said he had a lot of regrets, but that he was still happy with the launch game. And
I think I know what he means, but I would also. It
sounds a bit stubborn, like a bit closing your eyes to the truth. Like, you didn't launch the game you wanted to, really. Like,
I think it's a problem, isn't it? Because I think it's very close and very, very far apart in the sense what Hello Games said they were going to launch, and don't get me wrong, some stuff they did say didn't actually make it into the game, but also the level of expectation from players went through the roof too, and I always tie into the World Cup, right? Every time there's a World Cup or England play, something happens and everybody decides that England are going to win the World Cup. And then when they don't, everyone gets mad, even though it was their expectation that they put on it to begin with. Now, yeah. I'm not saying that's what Hello Games did. There are actually specific things you can say, well, that wasn't in there and that wasn't in there. Because I imagine their ambition was greater than the actual, what they could achieve. And that happens all the time with games. The problem with Hello Games is they've been so transparent and so honest about it that kind of works as a double-edged sword. So maybe he just thinks... I mean, if you've been through something like they've been through, maybe he just did feel the need to wrap it up by saying, I'm still... Maybe he just meant more, I'm proud of what we did, as opposed to, we launched what we expected to launch. Because I think most people, in a rational argument... And like I said, I didn't like No Man's Sky. I thought it was a bit boring. But I always kind of thought that because it wasn't for me. However, knowing everything they talked about up to a launch and what they launched, yeah, a few things didn't make it in. So it's a very, very blurry situation. I think everything they went through after the fact muddies the waters even more, because now it's almost impossible to tell what happened when that came out, because it's like a big fight.
Yeah, and also I guess he didn't really want to say, like, yeah, we didn't launch the game we want to launch, like that. He did sort of want to... I think he was trying to have it both ways, saying, like, yeah, we did want to launch the game we want to launch, but we also wanted to build upon it. So we didn't consciously try to deceive you with a shit game, but we just made mistakes, sort of thing. People I've seen, because I've been looking into this ever since, because I wasn't aboard the hype train. I didn't really care about No Man's Sky until really now. And yeah, I've been looking at some of the stuff in the comment section from 2 years ago, just calling him a compulsive liar and things like that. And I'm not sure that's the case. He just seemed, I think, a bit unwise in his words, maybe a bit too giddy with excitement sometimes, like Peter Molyneux.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And like there was one where it was like a yes or no interview, like, will there be multiplayer? Yes. Will there be this? Will there be yes? It was yes, 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 yes. And I just think it was just sort of a bit much for someone who's not a media guy. But yeah, no, the Guardian article is a really interesting read, and it's interesting because I think he doesn't really want to talk about the specifics too much, because I think they must have been through some really horrible stuff, family threatened, and
Well, yeah, and I'm not trying to tie this in, and it's not the same on any level, but it is from a sort of troll standpoint. Like, as we talked about, and we talked about before we came on here, before we hit record, I should say. I suffered this injury with Defiant, and you may or may not know I do a lot of work for What Culture, especially for their wrestling channel, which is it's quite a big YouTube channel. So when it happened, we all agreed we should put something out there about it, because that's what we've done the whole thing with all my wrestling training. Yeah. And a lot of responses that I got were, "I'm happy you're injured," "haha, serves you right," all this classic stuff that you can't expect from the internet, but still when you get it, always sort of hits you in that funny bone a bit, where you're like, really? And you do have that kind of reactionary nature when you want to say something, but usually you just put out a more general, nice tweet or whatever, and you leave it at that. So I can kind of understand him being defensive in that sense, because I got defensive earlier today. I was like, and I know it's not the same. So, but I think the problem with me is, when we talk about right or wrong, it all goes out the window when death threats are involved, because it's just a video game. I mean, there is no reason to ever send a death threat to anybody. But even if someone could come up with an extenuating circumstance where it could be justified, maybe to a certain degree, it would never, ever, ever, ever be because of a video game. Yeah. And that's the problem I have. I mean, this is more of a subject with the internet in general, but it is, I would say, arguably worse within video games, just because I guess video games were an early adopter, because obviously, what was YouTube led by? Video games, right? That was its big thing for ages.
Yeah.
And, it's just crazy to think that somebody can want well, and it is a toy. I know sometimes I say it disparagingly, but that's what it is. It's there to entertain you. and you to be so disappointed like there wasn't a butterfly in it and to react like that. And I think that's where the problem lies, and that's probably why he feels like he needs to be defensive, because he said it himself in the interview, like there's a big mob at the start, but then you get through that mob and the people at the back are all reasonable, nice people, some with nice things to say and some with constructive criticism, which is fine, but it's that noise that's being made at the problem. So, and that is always the problem when it comes to this kind of stuff, because I can imagine it putting some developers off maybe, working on something they want to work, because I don't think, let me phrase this the right way, but I don't think that when they started to launch No Man's Sky, they could have expected it to get the hype that it did. And I remember when Sony showed it off at that E3 conference, whenever it was, that was a big deal. Like, everyone was really excited. And then it kind of got out of control, and maybe they didn't have the right cogs in place to deal with all that. Like you said, Sean himself is doing all the PR. But, again, as soon as death threats come into it, I just can't believe it. It just makes me want to question what's going on in people's lives. And genuinely, even if someone's listening to this right now and you sent a death threat, it's one of those things where I've got no problem saying you are a maniac. Like, do you know what I mean? Sometimes you don't want to say, even when there's some things you don't agree with, you're like, well, I don't want to mention that because it could be X, it could be Y. It doesn't matter what your excuse is. You're insane. You're a maniac, and you have issues. There's no two ways about it, because it's a video game, and that is the toxic nature of the internet. So maybe that's why the internet came out today, right? It's been, 2 years since its launch, however long it's been, and I'm sure now they've got things in place where they feel like, okay, this is more the experience that we hoped it would be. And I know loads of people are still playing it. Loads of people still like it. It's coming out on Xbox One soon, or just came out, whatever it is. And I think,
tomorrow, I believe.
Oh, there we go. So it probably makes sense why he did this interview then. But I think that's the real issue with it, is it kind of it took away from what the conversation should have been. The conversation should have been, what happened here and what did you do? And we could have got a really interesting look into the development process. But instead, even today, and in hindsight, when we look back, it was just one big, Twitter army barrage against a group of people that sort of almost had a dream. I don't want to say got out of control, because I think they handled it as well as it could, but certainly the wave of expectation got out of control.
Yeah, and I think a really interesting aspect of this that people have to consider is Sony's role. I don't know Sony's role in all of this, but Sony must have, I think, pushed for that, because they seem like a decent group of people. I don't think they would have rushed out a half-finished product unless they were sort of getting some pressure from above. And the fact that Sony wasn't present, they were present during the hype, and they're happy to take that credit. But when things went south, they very quickly disappeared from No Man's Sky. And Hello Games were sort of left to deal with everything. And Sony were just sort of like, oh, okay, bye. That's what it seems like. I don't know a lot about the ins and outs of it. Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing, right? We don't know. It's always difficult to say. But you're right. Like, take EA, right, with Battlefront 2. I mean, there was a lot of madness for that, but I'm not saying it was managed better. It wasn't, but there seemed to be a bigger protective wall between sort of the rage and the developer themselves. But it has become a fascinating case study, No Man's Sky. I mean, I don't know what Hello Games' plans are now. I think they're still working on it. I don't know whether the Xbox One comes with some new stuff, I believe. But, yeah, it's just a crazy situation. It really, really is, and yeah. And the problem was, I remember when they delayed it once, they got the same kind of reaction.
Yeah.
So, when we get to that stage, I think we all need to sort of take a step back and question what we're doing, because there's just more important things in life than video games. And if you are getting that upset about it, then we're all gonna lose it. So anyway. And
I'll tell you one positive I've got out of this is that I've got a lot more respect for Sean Murray and Hello Games, because the last 2 years they just had their head down, just focusing on the game. That's it. No publicity, no press hype, no nothing. And I don't play it, but from what I've heard, it's a decent game. It's a really good game now, and they committed to fixing their mistakes. They made the mistakes, they realised it, and then they fixed it. Whereas, like, Mass Effect Andromeda, that was abandoned 3 months after launch, no more updates. And like, obviously there might be different reasons for it, but it's great to see them just head down and being like, okay, we'll fix what everyone said that they didn't like. And now they're in a much stronger position on Xbox One with the major updates than they've ever been.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do agree with Sam. You should definitely go and read the article, and if you did miss all of that, go back and just take in all the content, because it was a fascinating few months, and fascinating in a bad way, I would say, but fascinating all the less. Good things don't have to be fascinating. And I guess we see what they do from here, where they go next. And yeah, I mean, I think it's a credit, like you said, I think it's a credit to them for even keep going throughout all that. If they had packed it all in, I'd be like, you know what, I don't care. I can kind of understand why you did that. Sometimes it is too much. You just don't need that in your life. Especially when you've got families. Death threats against yourself is one thing, but against your family, I don't know, man. That's difficult for me to take.
Yep.
But yeah, everyone definitely go and read that article on The Guardian right now. I think it's done by Keza McDonald, did it, correct? It was.
I should have paid more attention to who did it, not just Sean.
Nah, not at all. It was Keza. Yeah, so Keza did it. So that's a good write up there. The other thing I wanted to talk about was I don't have all the details, but I saw a headline and got some stuff. Basically, Onrush, the game that came out by Codemasters, 2 months ago? You know,
I think 8 months ago. Is it during E3?
Yeah, well, you got Evolution Studios, and most people probably know them from Drive Club because as it's now come out, Onrush did not sell very well at all. I mean, basically, what Codemasters done is gutted the studio, and it's basically dead. I mean, that's it. I mean, that's the long and the short of it, and it's kind of crazy because I thought, and I'd have to look into this. I remember at the time reading reviews about it and stuff. I'm pretty sure Onrush did well critically. I think a lot of people liked it.
I think it did good, sort of above average critically. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it certainly wasn't like a disaster. It wasn't like a broken mess for a game or anything like that. But I mean, clearly to quote Codemasters, to give them their due, they've said it's normal course of business for game teams to evolve as a product launch and move into service and as other new projects start, which basically means they're going to send them elsewhere. But, given this was the team that... I mean, don't forget how big a deal Drive Club was. Drive Club was huge. It was the PS4, right? Was it PS4?
I think so, yeah.
So the PS4, it just seems like... Because the PS4 came out years ago, it just doesn't feel like it. It was the... I remember that being, every console launched with a driving game, right? And that is what Drive Club was. So to come sort of 4 or 5 years down the line and that's it, they're dead, they're out. And it's not like it was a lack of quality. I think it's almost a bigger conversation here about what... Because to me, Onrush was a very, very, I want to say old school video game, but a very of its time video game. Sorry?
Yeah. It was like when Burnout 3 was around, that sort of PS2 era, there was like tons of them, and that was what people liked. But it always seemed a bit sort of like the PS2 arcade racer of the PS4. I played it a lot, and it was fun. It was flawed, but it was fun. But yeah, it does seem very dated as a whole sort of concept. You know what I mean? You don't get those kinds of races anymore. No,
and I don't. It's a difficult one because I like those games.
Yeah.
But with that said, if there's no market for them, you've got. I mean, did they think? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know because the pedigree of the studio was there. Obviously, these games work because we know they work. So I don't really get what happened. Unless it is just... I don't know, I guess it feels like to me when Split Second and Blur came out.
Yeah.
And
I forgot those existed.
Do you know what I mean? That was, 2011? 2010? Something like that? Maybe even sooner before that. So... And what does Codemasters do now? Because their successes are in Colin McRae rally games. They always do well. And Dirt, which is essentially the same game, really. So I don't want to talk in hyperbole here, but just to spark some kind of debate. I mean, are these type of arcade races? I don't want to say dead. I mean, Danger Zone 2 just came out, which is a bit different because that's almost like I don't say a low budget one, but it's certainly lower budget than most.
Yeah, and I mean it's not a racer as such. It's just getting something that people liked, Crash Mode, out of Burnout. Yeah, just Burnout 4 or 5, we would call it, but like a mini game spin-off. So. I don't know. I mean, is that why EA, for example, isn't producing more Need for Speed games? Because they've gone quiet. I'm not saying that falls into the Onrush, sphere of interest or whatever, but it certainly feels a bit like that to me. Just a little bit like you could kind of compare them a touch, maybe. I don't know. There just seems to be this kind of game to me seems to have fallen off the radar entirely. Yeah, it seems like that. And like Need for Speed does it. You wouldn't think after what was the last one? I can't remember what the last one was. That was announced at 2017's E3, but that one just sort of passed everyone by. And then Onrush sort of passed everyone by. It seems like none of these are sort of registering on the radar at all, despite people's attempts at doing different things with it. And maybe the time of the arcade racer like Need for Speed Underground and Burnout, maybe that's just gone.
Maybe. I mean, and also, because don't forget, like over the last... 4 years, does that make sense? 4 years, maybe. what am I talking about? The simulation games, such as, well, to me anyway, it certainly felt like the likes of Forza and not Gran Turismo because that was less. But what's the other game? The Namco game, Project Cars.
Project Cars.
They
Yeah.
really did feel like not only did they come to the forefront, but they carved a niche out for themselves.
Yeah.
Not even a niche. That sort of, to me, that felt like the Need for Speeds and the burnouts, that we used to have. And I know that Forza Horizon filled that void a little bit, but it wasn't as all in as games like Need for Speed or the ones we just talked about back in the day. So maybe I'm in the minority. I always wanted more games like Onrush, but maybe it's not. Maybe simulation games have actually, maybe they have. They've put their foot in, and that's what people want. Hence why we're getting Forza 7 or 8, whatever it is, in the next year, I think. And no one seems to be too upset about it. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's what they want.
Yeah, you'd think so, because there's so many simulation games as opposed to arcade ones, and with the sales, if you compare them, I assume it's just ginormously skewed in favour of the simulation ones. So
yeah, it did surprise me, but it does suck. Anytime the studio closes, it's just the worst. Again, this sums up my day. I saw a few people saying good riddance. And it's just this episode of the podcast is brought to you by insane trolls that are just awful, horrible people.
They tried hard. They were honest people. They made a good game. It wasn't like they were lying or money grabbing or anything like that. They just didn't made a game that didn't quite hit the mark for some people. Why would you want them to lose their livelihood?
I don't know. I tell you what, because they don't think about that, do they? They don't think about that. They see the game. They probably played it and didn't like it, and that's as far as it goes. It's like, good, I'm glad. People are crazy, man. That's just the theme of today. I'm not a negative guy. I'm going to forget it as soon as we stop talking about it. But it's just a negative day for the YouTube the Twitter social media generation. So.
Getting your collarbone all flared up.
Yeah, if only I could feel my collarbone right now, I'd be a happy man. I'm on so many drugs, Sam. Codeine is a wonderful drug. Screws up your stomach, but my word, is that a good drug for just like ceasing all pain? And it works for me doubly because I'm not a man that even takes ibuprofen usually, so I haven't worn my body down. So my body is just using that shit. Anyway, that is a tangent and a half. Now I want to talk to you about the stuff you've been playing. There's no point me talking about what I've been playing because A, my arm doesn't work, but also what I had been playing still. And that's why I wanted to mention in passing, because I actually think it's better than even I thought it was. I've still been playing Super Mario Tennis. Which I think
playing that now, especially no emotion controls.
Well, no, that ain't happening. But I honestly think it's brilliant. I think it's, like I've said this before, but now I'm confident saying it with everything I've got. I think it's as good as Mario Kart 8. In the sense they can just iterate it onward. It's so good. And even if you turn off all the special moves and power hits, it's still such a good game of tennis. It's as good as the best Virtua Tennis is. And I say that as a compliment. When Virtua Tennis was good, it was amazing. And this just nails it. It just nails it. It is a wonderful video game. We've got you talk about, arcade races just then. And there's probably a reason why no one is releasing arcade tennis games anymore. And yeah, because it has the Nintendo magic, everything is okay. And I genuinely think, alongside Mario Kart and Mario Odyssey, it's one of the best games on the entire machine. It's just great. It's just got that Nintendo magic, and I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna have to get it, like, just every week, just like, still tennis, and it's amazing.
Did you ever play? I know I've got a few years on you, but did you ever play Super Tennis as a kid?
I mean, I've never played any tennis games. I don't like tennis.
Well, there we go. Well, don't get them. But
I mean, I play Wii tennis because that's not really tennis. It's like a fun video game. You don't have to like tennis.
Yeah, but Super Tennis on the SNES was genuinely, for me, one of my favourite games ever. And this captures that magic so well. If it had taken in, I mean, no Mario sports games do this anymore, which is a shame. But if it had taken in all the stuff that the Game Boy games did with the RPG, especially Mario Golf on the Game Boy Advance. If it had taken all that into it, it would have been near perfect for me. But hey, it's a great video game. I keep playing it. I can't stop playing it. Also played a bit more. I went back to it. I finished it loads. Rogue Legacy, just because I was sat around and I had nothing to do, so I played that. That is still an amazing game too. But that's neither here nor there. It's just as an aside.
Yeah,
that is fantastic. What have you been on, my friend?
I have been on Life is Strange for the first time.
That's right. Now, I want to play this because essentially it's a point-and-click game, right? That's what it is.
In the modern sense, not just stationary on the screen, but yeah.
No, but that's the kind of... It's a point-and-click inspired story adventure thing, right?
Yes.
So that, to me, that's my favourite type of game. And yet here we are, 3 years since it came out, and I haven't even thought about downloading
I think it's longer.
Because they just released a sequel, didn't they? Or an inspired sequel or something like that.
Well, that's a prequel.
Okay, well there you go.
That's
See?
Before the Storm.
So
which is
why don't I know more about this? And that's a silly question for me to ask because you don't have the answer to this. But it should be something for me I've gone out of my way to check out. And yet again, here we are. I'll tell you exactly how it is. Life is Strange. Got to type with one hand, so you have to give me a minute. It's going to take me a while.
Clunk,
yeah,
clunk,
2015, so it's basically just over 3 years old.
Yeah.
Obviously, it got crazy. I mean, it's come up here with all the scores: 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, 4.1 out of 5. Like, you know, it's smashed it. Even the Steam user rating is good.
Yeah.
But it obviously penetrated because it had a prequel and people are still talking about it. But yeah, I mean, you tell me as well. Why now? What is it? Or did you just sort of get sick of people talking about it? Like, I'll play it.
Well, no, I don't actually know anyone who really plays it. The only person I know who knows it doesn't like it. So
I like this. This is good already, right? Do you know why they don't like it?
Well, this is the word. I hate people criticising games for this, but they say it's boring. And I mean, like, it depends. Like, if you don't like a sort of slow burn story, and episodic games have their own sort of layout and structure and pacing, you're not going to like it because it's slow, right? And people don't watch Titanic and go like, oh, I'm really in for this riveting action thrill ride. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm not saying it's Titanic. But yeah, it's the reason. I don't know why I've played it now, to be honest. I had it on because it was PS Plus ages ago, so I've had it on the back burner for ages. Like, oh yeah, I'll get around to playing that. And I actually started watching a playthrough of it when it came out, and I was like, you know what, I want to play this myself 3 years ago. So I'll stop playing now and then play it myself, and then here I am halfway through it in 2018.
And do you love it?
I strongly like it. That makes me sound like, oh, he hates it. But no, it's not as strong as I wanted it to be, but it's still extremely good. I think it's very dated. I think it's like...
Well, even in 3 years?
Yeah.
That seems crazy to me.
I think it's like a car, right? As soon as you drive it off the lot, it devalues. And I think... I'm going somewhere with this. I think... if you start using teenage language of any time, like amazeballs, uber awesome,
that's in the game.
You really date your game very quickly,
and that's in there.
Yeah, amazeballs is in there.
That makes me not want to play it.
It's not. When you hear that, you think it's all going to be like that. It's not all like that, but there are moments in it when you're like, oh, is this written by teenagers? Like, do they know what teenagers say? The dialogue is very good in terms of the relationship it forms, but I think, with something that was probably, if it came out in 2014 or 2015, it was probably written in 2012, 2013, something like that.
Yeah.
And things change very quickly, and especially with teenager things, it's very hard to do teenage dialogue and teenage drama well, and I think just at moments it's a little bit cringe and off the mark. But I mean, you see that with anything like One Tree Hill. I've not watched it, but I assume that has aged pretty poorly in terms of the dialogue and the cool language they use. But that's only a little niggle, really, because the relationships formed between the characters are really good. It's really sort of just as someone who's a fan of narrative games, I use this more often than I should, but it's a very human story, right? It's something that I think everyone can relate to.
I know what you mean, because I know what the story is, and I know what you mean by that term, but I also think it's the perfect term because it's something that games don't really touch upon, do they? Whereas this one goes full in. I think that's actually really important.
Yeah, it's nuanced. It's not like, here is this extreme example of something. It's like, it's very subtle, very nuanced, very, I don't know, touching at its sort of simplicity, at its quietness at times. Like, it's not about the big bombastic action, even though you can rewind time and things happen. It is about, these two teenage girls just sort of finding themselves in the world. Again, really wanky and bollocks, and it's a really, really interesting game. If anything, just it's interesting more than anything else. And there are some bits where, when mechanics are just sort of a bit overused because it's just like they try to pad it out. I feel like because I'm assuming you can rewind time in the game.
Yeah.
There's a bit where you prove it to your friend, and then you have to do several tests to prove that you can rewind time, and it's like, okay, right, I get this. But I guess you're always going to get that with point and click style games. There's always so much walking around and looking at stuff you can do, so you do need to mix things up a little bit. But no, I'm really enjoying it. a bit of a slow burn because I don't want to do it like 15 minutes at a time. I'd rather sit down with an hour for it at a time and sort of really sort of get lost in the world sort of thing. But no, it's a very good game, and I've got Before the Storm. That's probably why I started playing it, because I bought Before the Storm intending to play that, but then I sort of wanted to play Life is Strange 1 first. So yeah, I'd thoroughly recommend it, even if just to give it a go, really, because you could try episode 1 for free. I think you'll get a taste of whether it's for you out of that, to be honest.
I probably will give it a go. I think there should be more of those kind of games. It's why before I felt Telltale, I don't say they went off the ball, but they certainly hit their peak and they started going the other direction. I think is a fair thing to point. Hopefully, with their new engine, they'll get back on there. They'll get back on that. But I do like games like that, and I would like more games like that. So it seems silly for me not to support it, but I'll have to wait and see.
It's a game I'd love on the Switch, to be honest. I'd really love it on the Switch.
Is it on the Switch? I thought it was on the Switch.
No, it's on Android and iOS, but it's not on the Switch.
Oh, there we go. That's very strange. You think, yeah, because it seems suited for that kind of. I guess that's Nintendo's. What do you call it? Seal of quality. Not that anymore, but that's just probably such a difficult thing to get on. That one day it'll just pop up and everyone be like, huh? But yeah, it will be bizarre. But I do want to play it, and I know they've done well off it. And I know there's certainly more plans to do more. So. Yeah, look, the fact it's still got you even 3 years on, I think goes to show there is a level of intrigue there that people like.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you see, on a completely random note, did you watch the Nathan Fillion Uncharted fan film?
Yes.
What did you think of it?
I thought it was very good. He does the voice, that cocky sort of smugness, but not too cocky. He does that very well, really well. And he's got the right... He's just the right shape. That sounds really dodge, but like he's the right shape of dude. Like not bulky, but not in an opposing way.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
He's a touch too old, I think, to be honest. It would have been nice to get 10 years ago Nathan Fillion to do this. That's not how life works. But yeah, he did it very well, I think. And would I watch a full feature? Probably on Sky Movies or something, but I'm not like, we need more, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I liked it. Yeah, it was good, but I'm not one of these people clamouring for an Uncharted film anyway, so.
Yeah, well, I don't think that we need an Uncharted film by any stretch of the imagination. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just don't think that it's something... It doesn't, just because you should doesn't mean, just because you can doesn't mean that you should. That's kind of how I feel about a lot of video games. However, after watching that, I thought the script especially got what Naughty Dog does with that franchise so well that if that was meant to be an advert to get me interested in that movie, I would watch it. And I thought that was incredible.
My only worry is they make Uncharted into a film is like Uncharted as a game was sort of the game version of Indiana Jones.
That is true, yes.
So if you make Uncharted back into a film, you're just sort of making Indiana Jones again. And I don't want just another caper, getting treasure, getting out of danger closely or whatever. I just don't feel... I feel like you really needs to do something else if it is going to be a film. Because as much as everyone will love it and it will get loads of money if it's just the same Uncharted plot, I'd just really like for it to be something different,
I would, but I genuinely, again, the script especially is what really got me. When it first started, I was like, oh gosh, a bit of a roll of the eyes, classic, here we're going to do here. But it was the line where, I don't know what it was now, but it's one of the quips he made to one of the bad guys. I was like, that is so Uncharted, he delivered it so well. And like you say, he looks just enough like him for you to just kind of buy in. Yeah, I thought it was excellently done, and I was just very pleased by it, to be honest. And now I kind of want to see what they can do with it. I don't think it will go anywhere. I don't think Naughty Dog need to do that. And I imagine they've got enough, the amount of money and time it would take to make a film. I just don't think they could be bothered. But, that aside, I watched that, in a hotel room up in Newcastle after my first wrestling fight on Monday. And it really put a smile on my face. I thought, this is really, really, really good.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if anything happens.
I can't see it. I mean, we're on Uncharted 4. That came out a couple of years ago. I'm sure Uncharted 5 will do well, but to me, I don't see the need for it. I really, really don't. We could do it, but I just don't see what you get out of it. I just don't. I don't see what the benefit was.
Money.
Yeah, but would it do that well? I don't know.
I think it would.
Do you really?
Yeah, it's Uncharted has a big old following. Naughty Dog has a big old following, and it's sort of gathered enough hype now. I mean, in terms of the Nathan Fillion just fan film, so I think it would do well.
Well, we'll find out. Well, I think they would have announced it by now.
Yeah.
I think it's. I just don't. I know the Gears of War movie is slowly sort of getting traction again. How that's happening, I don't know. But somehow it started to gather traction again. But even that, I think, would be too... I just think it'd be too much. I think it'd be too crazy. I just don't think it's something that we need to... I don't know, we'll see. But look, my point being is I thought that was very good. In and on itself, I thought that was very well done. It put a smile on my face. Thought it was funny.
I mean, sometimes a fan film is all you need. You don't need a full feature, right? So.
Well, yeah. If anything, you could say maybe that filled the hole you needed it to fill.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll see. Now, literally, that's all I've got about this week. However, I know that we are we're running super, super short. So, is there anything else you want to talk about?
I mean, there was... did you see that? Because you're a Walking Dead Telltale fan, right?
I like the first season. I thought the rest did a decent enough job, but lost their way a little bit.
Okay, because they published the first 15 minutes of the new game at Comic-Con.
Is it on a new trailer, or it's the last game using the old engine? Sorry,
it's using the graphic black style, which I think is the new engine.
Okay.
And there's 15 minutes of just the first 15 minutes of the game. If you haven't seen that, I guess it's hard to talk about that right now. But yeah, loads of news came out of Comic-Con. That Spider-Man Special Edition PS4 looks amazing.
I didn't see that. What is it? Just just what you just said, I imagine.
It's like the red, the bright red that Insomniac's going for, just with the white spider logo, and it looks like really nice. Like if I had that much disposable income just ready to throw on a PS4 Pro right now, I'd just be like, yes. But I always figure it would be cool to get out of the box, those special edition consoles, but then they just sort of sit there like any other console, so I'm not too bothered.
Yeah, I bought that Gears of War one and I never got anything out of it. It's such a bad idea. I just quickly, before we move on, I've got the Walking Dead thing up here now. This can't be their new engine. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I can see the upgrades and I can see where it's been polished, but it doesn't look that different, does it? Don't tell me all they've done is change the engine so all the stupid bugs have gone, but it kind of operates in exactly the same way. I wanted them to come up with a whole new way of telling stories, and the irony of that sentence anyway. But that's what I was hoping for.
Let's see if it is. I'm going to see if I can find out if it is, because it's gonna be really funny if it's just not the case at all.
Well, I don't mind if it's not. I just been looking at this teaser now. It's what's the word I'm looking for? I want more. The only way they're going to be able to shake things up is if they introduce something brand new to their template. I know their template is successful, but I really do think it's run its course. And like I say, this does look a lot better visually, but the way it controls and the animation and the way you interact with it, that's all the same. And I thought they were going to, they rewrote the rule book once. I kind of hoped they were going to do that again, especially with The Walking Dead, because that's kind of what brought them to the dance to begin with. Because everything before the first Walking Dead really was a pile of shite.
I mean, I've not played it, so I can't agree or disagree. But yeah, who knows?
Do you know if it's new engine or not?
No, I'm not.
All right. Did anything else come out of Comic-Con then, other than PS4s and?
There was loads of news out of Comic-Con. It's just all coming for different games. So I'm just trying to think of what news specifically came out of Comic-Con. Let's just look up Comic-Con. There was a new Lego DC Supervillains trailer.
I saw that. They're all right, those guys. The problem with Lego games to me now, they're just, again, talk about Telltale, they're all the same to me now. I didn't really like them to begin with, so actually trying to, muster up the motivation to play them is next to impossible. Yeah,
Aquaman, Shazam, things like that. Shazam looks ridiculous. I'm not sure. I don't know anything about Shazam anyway, but he looks like a ridiculous hero.
Not the video game, is it?
No, I mean Shazam, the DC hero.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't know they were doing a video game with it as well.
No, it was a film trailer.
I saw that because at one point The Rock was meant for that.
Oh, I could see him as that. Have you seen the new Jumanji, by the way?
I haven't, no, but you're going to tell me it's good, aren't you?
It's just what you expect. I think I've talked about this before, but I've rewatched it. But it's just fun, isn't it? Just The Rock film, so that's pretty much tells you all you need to know.
What happened to Skyscraper? It didn't do very well, did it? There's a big hoo-ha online.
I assumed it was just the usual. Rock just did reasonably well at the box office, and he kicked some ass, I assume.
At one point, it was definitely faltering. I think maybe it picked up this week, but...
it's just Towering Inferno, isn't it? I thought that was just the film.
It's just Die Hard, yeah. But I heard some news that everyone's, The Rock's not bulletproof, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I don't care.
I don't think... He's one of those people like Adam Sandler. Does he have any actual Die Hard fans, or do people just watch him just sort of
I think it has diehard fans on social media. I think loads of people love him on social media, but.
What do you think of the? Oh, we've talked about this. Yeah, you're not too big a fan.
I think he's a little he's devious. That's what I think. We also, because we haven't mentioned this as well, this came out. Apparently, Crackdown 3 is definitely, and you should put that in inverted commas, coming out in February 2018. I mean, will
2019.
it? 2019. Sorry. I mean, will it? I don't know. But also, the other
they did say definitely.
Well,
so.
We'll see. The other thing is, apparently, Halo Infinite doesn't have a battle royale mode. I think that is ridiculous. Like, I get it, Fortnite and PUBG are oversaturating and blah, blah, blah. We hate them. But I tell you, I don't play Call of Duty anymore. But one of my most excited things in 2018 is seeing what they're a talented studio, I don't care what anybody says, they know what they're doing, can do with that mode. And I know that Epic plowed millions and millions of dollars into it, but it's different. It's a different approach.
Yeah.
So, I genuinely... I think more people should be trying to jump on that bandwagon. One of the things I think sometimes, don't get me wrong, sometimes they do it too much, but there's never no middle ground with games. It was like Active Reload. When Active Reload came out for Gears, I thought it was one of the best introductions to the third-person shooter in ages. And no one really did. A few people did, but no one really did. I think the Battle Royale idea has legs for a more general audience that don't want to play Fortnite every single damn day, and probably the best people to get them in is somebody like an Activision or a Treyarch or Halo guys. So I'm surprised that they're almost wearing like a badge of honor. Oh, we're not going to do that. Well, maybe you should. Like, maybe that is what you want to do. I find it a bit weird.
Yeah, so that stuff's popular. Why would we do that? It's like, well, it's very popular. Like, it's earning a lot of money.
I wouldn't mind if they said we don't feel like we can match what's already been done. I don't mind that at all. You don't have any ideas, but it's never done like that. It's already become like I'm not putting Battle Royale in my game. What? Because it's really successful, we have to shit all over it. They don't have to like it, but at least hold your hand up and go, man, they create a whole new genre, technically. I mean, not really, but technically that's what they've done. It's got its own genre name and shit. And
people forget, like, Battle Royale has not really been done in first person very well.
No.
PUBG was tacked on. Nobody has done a tailored first person Battle Royale game at a large scale yet, and that'll be really interesting.
Yeah.
Because it changes the whole way you see it, obviously. But, like, in Fortnite, you can see all around you without putting yourself in danger. But, like, changing that up, that'll be really interesting to see, I think.
I want to see it. Honestly, I will play Black Ops 4 this year just for the Battle Royale, to see what have they done. Do I like it? Do I not like it? Do I feel like it offers something different from PUBG or Fortnite? Or have they already got, established, that there is nothing you can do? I mean, we talk about this all the time, but it's like when people mucked around with controllers for ages, right? And then all of a sudden we went, well, no, we've sorted the controller. Why are we fucking around? Stop fucking around. Yeah. It could be that. We don't know. But, yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
And another thing, Fortnite has made $1 billion.
How nuts is that? The next time someone starts going on about free to play, I mean, and also and it's not really loot boxes, obviously, but that argument about finding that fine balance between, to find that balance between what people feel is exploitative and what's not. Look at the difference. That's incredible. That's incredible. Well,
I think it's just a really good case study if anyone wants to look at the business of video games, because they don't really hide anything. They just 70% of the players that play Fortnite buy stuff, and that's because the Battle Pass offers all this stuff that you can earn, which you're really paying for the privilege to earn. But then the shop refreshes every day, and just it's unbelievable. They've made $1 billion off a free-to-play game. And yeah, I mean, hats off to them. Analysts predict that the Battle Royale games are going to earn $20 billion next year, with with Battle Royale, with Black Ops and Battlefield adding to that as well. So yeah, when people say, "Oh, Battle Royales, the bubble's going to burst," it's like, is it? No, is it really?
You may. Well, Call of Duty was going to be dead by now as well, Sam. And here we are about to head into yet another successful year for that. So
it's just like Pokemon Go, right? People say, "Oh, it's dead," but it's like when you start at like 100 million players and you lose 80 million of them, you're still very much not dead. Like, I think that's going to be the case with Fortnite. When it eventually dies, it's not really going to die.
Exactly. People just they love to shit on things, man. It's ridiculous. They love to.
Yeah, we're just going to spread the positivity, spread the love.
Always, even with broken arms and who knows, and blistering heat, we spread the love regardless. Oh dear. Well, look, I mean, let's face it. The show's called The Week in Gaming. That is literally the week in gaming. We got Gamescom coming up in 2 weeks. Are you going to Gamescom, Sam? No, more than that. About 3 weeks. Gamescom, 4 weeks, something like that.
No, I'm not. I'm going to be staying home manning the fort.
Right. Well, we can talk about all of that. So in 3 weeks, things will kick up again. And in the meantime, we said we are going to talk about some sort of classics. Maybe next week we can talk. What came out in the summer of 1998? Something must have come out in the summer of 1998 we can talk about.
That is a question I was not prepared for.
We will look into it and we will figure it out and we will talk about some classic stuff. But yeah, I mean that's the truth of it. Really, it's just a very, very quiet, just a quiet time.
It's always like this, right? So.
It is. But there's still plenty of stuff to talk about. And if you are going to get No Man's Sky for the Xbox One and you never played it, definitely get in touch because I would like to know what you think about it, and we can talk about that as well. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six came out about 20 years ago. Don't know anything about that.
And Banjo-Kazooie.
And Banjo-Kazooie. Yeah, we've done that. Yeah. So and WWF Warzone came out literally 2 years ago last week. You ever played that game? Well, that's in October, right? Metal Gear Solid. So we should definitely do that. And Fallout 2 came out in September as well, so we can definitely talk about that as well. But we'll get there. In the meantime, Sam, thank you as always for joining me.
My pleasure.
And all of this is supported by patreon.com/SimonMiller316. I will say right now, if you would like to give me $1, you're going to help me out a lot because I had to cancel loads of work because I've only got one arm. But that is neither here nor there. Either way, it'll also be on youtube.com/The Miller Report Rules. I'm on Twitter at SimonMiller316, Instagram SimonMiller316. I will dig out Sam's information and put it in the description as well. And other than crazy wrestling or horrendous injuries taking us out of all of this, we will come into your face every Monday. And if you like pro wrestling, Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Podcast will drop this Wednesday as well, and we'll get back into that too. But thank you very much for joining me, Sam. Thank you for joining me too. And like I say, in 7 days' time, we'll be rocking and rolling back into your face.